Let's head to Washington next. This is a live look at the White House this morning, where the position on the Israel-Hamas war has shifted a bit. President Joe Biden has now called for a pause in the conflict to allow hostages to get out. Now, the comment comes as the United States prepares to evacuate more U.S. citizens trapped in the territory. Peter Armstrong is in our Washington bureau this morning, following the details on all of this. So, Peter, good morning to you. What exactly did President Biden say?
Yeah, it's an interesting shift, might be the right word, softening. Call it what you want. It is a change. Joe Biden and his administration have repeatedly said that they're not about to dictate to Israel how to prosecute the war. And then last night, he was speaking at this campaign event in Minnesota, pretty small group, about 200 people. And in the midst of that, a woman stood up and started to yell at the president. Let's take a listen here.
Mr. President, if you care about Jewish people as a rabbi, I need you to call for a ceasefire right now.
Now, you can't quite hear Biden's response on that recording, but as I say, the event was a small campaign fundraiser, so a White House pool reporter was there, and the pool report could hear, and this is what Biden said. He said, I think we need a pause. A pause means give time to get the prisoners out. Now, that, the woman was escorted out chanting ceasefire now, but this certainly does mark a shift in the White House position. The administration, as I say, has repeatedly said that it's not going to dictate how Israel conducts its military operations. John Kirby, just last week, his quote was that we're not drawing red lines for Israel. We're going to continue to support them. Friday, we saw the U.S. was one of only 14 countries in the United Nations to vote against a resolution in the General Assembly calling for a ceasefire. Biden said that he understood the emotion here, saying, quote, this is incredibly complicated for the Israelis and incredibly complicated for the Muslim world as well, that he supported the two-state solution from the very beginning. And he went on to talk about he was the guy who, convinced Benjamin Netanyahu to call for a ceasefire to let the prisoners out. He's the guy who talked to Sisi in Egypt to convince him to open the doors to Rafah. He added that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Egyptian President Abdel el-Sisi are both people that he's been talking to a lot through this. So it'll be really interesting through the course of the day today to figure out how this shift, if that's what it is going to be communicated, not just to Washington and everybody here, but to the world.
Yeah, and what the definition of pause is for the White House. Okay, so Peter, that's what's happening on that front. This is also happening while the Biden administration continues its efforts to push for an aid package for Israel and also Ukraine. What's the latest on those efforts?
They certainly face an uphill battle in Congress. The fact that the aid packages provides aid to both Israel and Ukraine is really the source of the holdup. House Republicans have tried a couple of times now to split those funding bills. That does not look like it's going to happen. And, before they get to debates like this, the House is sort of concentrating right now on tackling motions like, they're trying to expel one representative. They're looking at censuring some others. They've spent the last 3 weeks debating, who would be acceptable as speakers. So there's not an awful lot of agreeing going on Capitol Hill, which does make it kind of hard to see a clear path forward on matters of substance like those funding bills.
Absolutely. Okay, Peter Armstrong in our Washington bureau this morning for us. Thank you.
You bet.